My son's voice cracked on the phone. Not loud, not dramatic, careful, as if he were afraid the truth might hear him. "Amy," they said, "maybe it's better if you don't come." Silence followed, the kind that presses against the skull. Like, comment, and subscribe Huna Stories for more stories. I was standing in my study, fingers resting on polished mahogany, staring at a framed aerial photograph of Rosewood Manor, the estate glowing in golden afternoon light, acres of land, history embedded in stone, my signature etched discreetly in the corner of the deed copy beneath it. I owned that place, yet my son was whispering to me like a child who had broken something expensive. "They said the guests will be very elite." He continued, "Envies investors, politicians, people who might feel uncomfortable with me." I closed my eyes slowly, measured my breath. Outside, the city moved on. Inside, something old and sharp stirred awake. "Who said this?" I asked. A pause. "Too long, her parents." He finally said they think my background might not match the atmosphere. Atmosphere. I imagined silk tablecloths, crystal chandeliers, champagne flutes lifted by hands that had never worked a day without gloves. I imagined their smiles, polite, practiced, cruel. I said nothing. I didn't need to because in that moment something settled inside me with absolute clarity. They had mistaken silence for weakness. I raised my son alone. No wealthy surname, no glittering circles, just discipline, strategy, sacrifice. Every business move I made was quiet. Every asset hidden behind shell companies and trusts designed to outlive egos. His future was built brick by brick, and now he was marrying into money loud enough to announce itself before entering a room. "They don't mean harm," he said quickly, filling the quiet. "They just want everything to be perfect." Perfect didn't include me. I pictured his fiancée's mother, the tight smiles, the eyes that scanned rooms like price tags, the father always shaking hands too hard, asserting dominance with every laugh. They had invited my son's labor, not his roots. I felt the betrayal, not from them, but from him, not intentional, still sharp. He didn't fight them. He delivered their message instead. I said I understood. I always said that. After the call ended, I sat down and let the memories line up. The first time they'd asked what my husband did. The way their tone shifted when I said nothing. "He's gone." The subtle glances at my clothes, my accent. I had watched. I had measured. And now they wanted to erase me from my own son's life for one photograph perfect evening. They thought I was poor. That was the insult, not money, ignorance. I didn't react. Reaction is what people like them expect. Instead, I investigated quietly. I asked my lawyer to pull the guest list for Rosewood Manor through the estate management company I legally controlled, but never publicly claimed. I reviewed contracts, vendor lists, seating arrangements. My name was missing. Of course it was. I watched my son move through wedding preparations like a man drifting. Apologetic eyes following me around the room whenever he visited. I smiled, served tea, said nothing. Inside I rehearsed, not confrontation, timing. I remembered the day I purchased Rosewood Manor 20 years ago through a holding firm registered overseas. I remembered the seller's shock when a widow with modest manners closed without negotiation. Power is best when it doesn't announce itself. I requested one small change to the wedding itinerary as the estate owner. No names, no explanations, just a clause requiring a brief address by the host before the ceremony. Approved instantly. They never check the fine print when they think they're superior. The wedding day arrived flawless. White roses, soft music, wealth, performing for wealth. I arrived early, not as a guest, as the owner, dressed simply, elegantly, undeniably. The estate manager froze when he saw me, then nodded with quiet respect. The bride's parents noticed me last. Their smiles faltered. Confusion flickered. I waited until the officiant paused for the host's address. The estate manager stepped aside and handed me the microphone. I didn't smile. "I want to welcome you," I said calmly, my voice carrying across the manicured lawn to Rosewood Manor. Murmurs rippled. "I purchased this estate 20 years ago. Every stone you admire today exists under my care." Silence fell, heavy, choking. I turned to the bride's parents, and I was told I was too poor to attend. Their faces collapsed inward. My son stared at me, stunned, understanding dawning too late. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse. I simply let the truth sit between us, exposed and undeniable. "You didn't want me here," I continued, "so I won't stay." Gasps, whispers, cameras lowering. "But understand this," I said, meeting their eyes. "You don't get to decide who belongs, especially on land you do not own." I handed the microphone back, walked past them, past my son, whose eyes were wet with regret. I didn't stop. Power doesn't linger for applause. I left before the vows. Some wounds don't bleed, they teach. In the car, I felt nothing dramatic, no triumph, no sadness, just clarity. They saw me that day not as poor, not as invisible, but as something they could never control. And my son learned a truth far more expensive than any wedding. Silence, when chosen, is strength. I drove away from Rosewood Manor, knowing one thing with certainty. They lost more than dignity that day. They lost the illusion of power, and I never looked back. Thanks for listening. Like, comment, and subscribe Huna Stories for more stories.